can you let everybody know who Edna is and how she's been taking the world by storm?
Sure. Well, Edna Keep, I am a real estate entrepreneur, have been for 13 years now. We have built our portfolio to 600 doors and soon to add another 84. We just got an accepted offer on 84 units in Memphis, Tennessee.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, we're still buying, we're still in the market, things are still happening. We own primarily in Canada, throughout Canada. Primarily multifamily, primarily with other people's money or investor capital. And yeah, we love it. We're enjoying doing it. And then, of course, I teach other people how to do the same thing.
Amazing. Now, life wasn't this great at one point in time, right? I mean, there was a time where you're not sleeping in cars and like
Never been that bad. I
can
never
we
had it that bad.
can we dig that deep into your past? I like
Absolutely.
digging into the past because I think it's important for people to know where you were and how you were able to transform your life to be where you are today. Right? Because I think
Absolutely.
sometimes people say, well, yeah, well, it's easy for Edna to say because look at Edna. But it wasn't always easy for you, right?
Oh, that's so true. You know, Gary, I became a single mom at the age of 16. And, you know, in high school, I didn't have that great of marks. I was your typical C student, wasn't all that interested. I could get good marks in what I was interested in, but the rest I was like, couldn't be bothered. And lived in a small town. So, yeah, we didn't have a lot to do. So, yeah, pregnant very early. You know, and in some ways that was like the worst time of my life, but also the best because it did really make me grow up quicker, I think, than most of my peers. And it also, I think, made me more ambitious. Like I didn't want to be known as that dumb blonde pregnant 16-year-old like that. I hated that when people made those kind of connotations that I was stupid and you know, look, I ruined my life and different stuff like that. So I started searching and I just determined that I was going to be a success. You know, I had people telling me, oh, Edna, you got to learn to live within your means. You got to learn to budget and you got to do this. And I went, oh my God, that just sounds like a nightmare to me. I didn't want to learn how to do that. I thought, you know what, if I want to learn anything, I want to learn how to be rich. That's what I want to do. I don't want to learn to budget and live within my means and all that stuff.
Right.
Had a lot of people tell me to get my head out of the clouds. That was never going to happen. I was a single mom, C student, didn't even go to university. What do you think you're going to do? Like, come on, give your head a shake.
Right.
But, you know, I just always had that dream and I didn't, you know, I didn't get after it real fast. Like I had that dream always in the back of my mind, didn't know how I was going to do it. Um, Kind of my first break was I went from an office administrator to becoming a certified financial planner. And that's when I really kind of figured out like a great way to make money. Within, as my office administrator job, I was making about 40,000 a year. And everybody said, oh my God, Edna, you're so lucky. You got, you know, I was working 4 or 5 days a week and four when I finally left. But people thought weekends off, your boss loves you. Why would you ever want something different? But you know, I was bored. I still felt I could do more. And so I decided to become a financial advisor. And you know, I could only do it on a part-time basis because I couldn't give up a job. I had a daughter to look after.
Right.
When I was young, I actually lived in subsidized housing and my daughter went to subsidized daycare. So I didn't live in a car or anything, but that was kind of like the worst thing for me. Like our family had never had, you know, social assistance in any way. So it was a little bit of a, that's where people really thought that I couldn't rebound from that, you know?
Right.
And but becoming a financial advisor really taught me a lot about money, a lot how to deal with investors and capital and stuff like that. And from my 40,000 a year job to my second year in financial services, I went up to 187,000 a year, and that was like what 4 times my income. And it was like, wow, I knew then that I'd found something that I was going to do.
Wow, that's big. That's big money.
It
And
was
when are
it
we
was.
talking? Was that like in the 90s?
Yeah, yeah. I started there. I started as part-time in financial services in 1992.
Yeah.
I had like 20,000 a year on the side when I was still doing my administration job. And then my manager convinced me I should go full time, that I would make more money. And my first year full time did 67,000. So basically replaced my income and my side income.
Yeah.
And then second year, 187. And that was in 1996. I went full time. And in 1997, I made the 187. And I never looked back. Like I made routinely about 250,000 a year. I was a financial advisor for about 15 years. And then I got introduced to real estate.
Right.
And I never thought of it as a career change, Gary. I just thought I would, maybe buy a house or two. There's all these people buying houses, rentals. And I thought, yeah, check into it, find out about it. Some of my
Right.
clients were what actually turned me on
So,
to
so,
it.
so when you were a financial advisor, some of the clients that you were working with, you saw that they had real estate in their portfolio, and you're like, "Hey, let me look a little bit first." So, did you just kind of start asking some of them questions, like,
Yes,
"How are
yeah,
you doing it?"
that's exactly. Because, there was some that really were doing well. And I still remember this one client, like he had like 50 doors. And I just thought like, holy, that was just like out of my mind. I just couldn't even understand that. And he still held a full-time job and managed his own properties. And I was just thinking, holy cow. So I started asking him questions, and then different clients were showing up. Oh, I bought a condo in Hawaii. I have a rental property. It started out being my home, and then I moved into a bigger home, and we kept that one, and hearing different stories like that. So I eventually checked it out and took a 3-day weekend with Robert Kiyosaki's group. And
Everybody
that,
does Robert
yes,
Kiyosaki.
and that's how we got introduced to it. And I loved it. Like, by the end of that weekend, I knew I wanted to do more. And that's what opened my eyes to the possibilities. I didn't realize all the ins and outs of real estate.
Right.
People think as a financial advisor, you understand all things financial. But you know what? I was a mutual fund salesperson. I was taught by mutual fund companies. They didn't teach us anything about real estate. And if we showed any interest in it, it was like, who wants to buy an asset class that earns like 3% a year? They didn't understand real estate.
Right.
So it wasn't until I really sat through that 3-day weekend that I understood how real estate worked and could see all the possibilities. So shortly after that, we ended up partnering with somebody who'd taken these same classes a couple years prior, and they already had 20 houses. And we're going, holy cow, like really 20 houses? We didn't even think we'd want 20 houses in our lifetime. And we, of course, you think maybe one house a year, 5 houses. And they did it in a couple years. So we started partnering with them. They took a lot of fear away because they'd done it before, and opened our eyes to the possibilities. Like I'm going, oh, this kind of looks like a
Right.
neighborhood.
So,
And
so sorry, I was going to jump in. So, when you started then, and so you did it with a partner, you didn't do it on your own.
yeah, well, my husband was involved too. Our first couple properties we bought all on our own,
Okay.
but because it was probably maybe a year in after a training that we met up with these guys. And we met up with them through a coach that I was working with, and she had a dinner for all of us. And I was like fascinated that these people had bought 20 houses or 20 doors in a couple of years. And that's kind of how we ended up partnering with them.
Right. Okay. And then so the homes that you bought first, single family, two
Two
units,
condos actually
so
were our very
condos.
first purchases. We still own them.
Okay, nice. And then
Yeah.
from condos, what did you move into?
Then we bought a duplex because we at that time there was a real shortage of housing in our city,
Yeah.
and we figured out how much extra rent we'd make between in a duplex, like an up down duplex, than we ever did in a condo. We didn't have condo fees and all that kind of stuff. But at first, we were scared of everything. We were toilets and roofs and furnaces, and so it was just less. With condos, like all we had to worry about was the interior. But the very first condo I bought, Gary, my oldest daughter was living in there. And
Okay.
so when the realtor took us by to look at these apartment style condos, he said, yeah, these just came up for sale. They're going to start selling some of them out as condos. And I went, wow. And he walked us around. I said, oh, my daughter just moved into there. Is that one for sale? Like she'd only been living there maybe a month. And he said, looks on his sheet, and he says, yeah, as a matter of fact, it is. And that's how we got introduced to our first condo, because I thought, oh, because we were scared of tenants too. I thought,
Right.
at least I know I'll have a good
Well,
tenant. Just talking
yeah.
to your rent, you know?
And I think a lot of people in the beginning, that's probably one of the biggest fears that they have, right? They're scared of tenants. They're scared of what they might do to the property. They hear all these different horror stories from people that got into real estate investing, didn't really take it to that next level or learn properly how to do it, and then they get out of it, and then they paint this horrible picture of real estate investing. And I'm not saying
So
you're not going
true.
to have bad tenants. You know, I've had them myself as well, but you learn from those mistakes and you grow and you get better at the tenant screening, or you find yourself a good property management company that
True.
can do that for you, right? Now, okay, so you do the condo, you do the duplex. What's after the duplex? Because you're a queen in the multifamily space. Is that kind of next?
Well, it took us a little while, over a course of 18 months, we got to 50 doors. And the last 24 was a 24 unit. So we had bought 26 doors with between condos and single family homes and duplexes. And then we got an access to a 24 unit. And
Okay.
I still remember having the conversation with the realtor, and he said, well, Edna, why don't you buy a multifamily? And because I mean, we had a pretty decent net worth, we had pretty decent income. We're planning on doing this full time. And I said, what? We can't do that. Like, we don't even have enough houses yet. Like, we can't go to an apartment building. He says, oh yeah, you can. And that was kind of my first introduction. So I said, well, tell me about it. So he told me about it. I said, okay, what'll it take to buy it? Like, what kind of offer? And he says, well, today's market, you're going to have to offer asking price, because that's just what's happening here right now. He says rents are so low at this property, in no time you'll be able to increase the value of it and get your money out of it anyway. So
Now,
we
where is this? This is where, in
that
Vancouver?
was in Regina,
In
Saskatchewan.
Regina. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on though. So you're going. I know you got so much information, but I know somebody who's listened to this, they're gonna be like, hold on a second. She just jumped by like 26 properties. So how did are you using other people's money to get all those properties? Is that what you're doing?
Our first two properties we bought with the equity out of our own home, because our market had increased a lot. Like, our house, we bought it in 2002.
Yeah.
2007, it went up almost double the value. So from 222 to, I think, 470,000. So we had some equity in our home. That's what we used to buy our education and buy our first two properties. And then the third one, because this is a really good story. The third one, we knew that we wanted to do more and more and more of this, and we knew that we were going to run out of our own money soon.
Right.
So we had been taught a class with Robert Kiyosaki called Creative Finance, and they taught us about vendor financing. So we asked the
Mm,
lady who was selling the house. We said, if we pay you full offer asking price that you're asking for your property, would you hold financing for us? Like, just a down payment. We can get financing for the rest. And she said, well, how would that work? So we explained to her that, we had the money to put the down payment, but when she got the money from when we got the lender and bought the house, that she could give us back that amount, and then we would pay her 6% interest a year
right.
on her money. And she says to us, wow, she goes, I'm going to win twice in one deal. Like, I get full price for my property, and I'm going to get 6% interest on my money. Where else can I get 6%? And I go, yeah, exactly. So that was our first foray into using other people's money. And
Right. That's creative. That's creative.
yeah,
And I hope
and
people
it
pay
worked good.
attention to what you just said there, because that is gold. And that's why I wanted you just to kind of slow it just a little bit so people can say, well,
Yeah.
here, look, here's another way that you can do this. So that's brilliant.